March 18th, our regular council meeting. So with that, we'll do a call to order. Jason?
Mayor Ikorst,
Here.
Councilor Pendergrass.
Here.
Councilor Phillips.
Here.
Councilor Spring.
Here.
Councilor Risedorfer.
Here.
And then we have Joe Palin here. We also have Mike on Zoom. And I believe Mr. Carlson is also going to be on Zoom as well.
Who is, I'm sorry.
Mike,
Oh, Mike, okay,
city attorney.
got it.
And then I think
Hey, Mike.
Phil will be on at some point, he said tonight on Zoom.
Okay.
So
All right, well, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda. I would maybe draw attention to our consent agenda in the effort to help move the meeting along. If there's anything you'd like to pull out on the consent agenda, now would be the time to let us know and we can put that in the agenda. So when we do get to the consent agenda, it's just a matter of a motion and a second, so.
I'd like to pull the checkbook out, check register out and add it to next month's. We just got it an hour ago, so
The check register?
we just got it an hour ago, so. Haven't had a chance to look at it.
And I had some questions, as far as, revenue and expense.
Just a minute, we did have the revenue expenditure report in the back of the packet. Is that what-
Yeah, that was the
I'm
check.
talking about the check register.
Oh, the check register.
Check register itself.
Okay.
Yep.
No, and I had the one that there was for questions off of that. Page 2.
We need to
Three.
motion to approve the agenda first.
Oh, I thought he was gonna move the stuff that there was. He just had to grab what there was out of it.
Do we
Are
need
you
a
talking
motion
check register, Jim?
Yeah, we should. Just mention that we have a discussion. I make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Is there a second?
No.
Marie, okay.
All right, sorry, Jim.
No, he said go pull it out, and so I was looking through the
Yeah.
stuff to pull out. Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be under, the revenue of page 1.
Revenue report?
And the revenue, and then. And I'm gonna do page 7. Also on expenditures.
Particular line items that you're looking at, Jim?
Yeah, it can go between 2 and page 7. And it would be, let me give you those numbers.
Are these, I'll have to ask, are these questions that could have been asked of Jason before the meeting or help expedite time?
Well, I mean, this is part of what we should bring up with council. I don't think everything needs to be private. I think it should be up in council so people know what we're talking about.
Expedite the meeting?
Well, we're trying to do it right now with how we're doing this stuff, Ryland, so, it's 45001 and 45002.
Expenditure?
Pardon?
What are those numbers?
45001.
So this ice-
45002 on
ice
page
is-
7.
Snow and sanding?
Yeah, it's on page 198, page 7, however you want to look at it.
So you've got double lines and everything, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still the same number.
Yeah, it's still same.
And what was on your page 1? What numbers?
The other one that I was looking at on page 1. Let's see, actually, it's number, it's 34116.
That's on page 1.
That's on page 2. The bottom page is 193 of 198.
Charges.
Talking about finance charges? 34116, you said?
Yeah, and the other one I just had a question was on 35079 as well too. And they all kind of fit together, and you'll see that when I ask that question, so.
Any other changes? In the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended with tabling the check register?
Can I,
Yes.
Mayor, if I can make a comment? We will need to have a special council meeting then, in the next few days, because this is to pay our bills. So as waiting a month would be unacceptable, otherwise we're gonna fall behind. So we need to have a special meeting then to do that in the next week.
Well, I question that because the check register is checks already written.
I don't
No,
think
I'm
they've
just
been
saying-
sent.
They've been sent.
Checks aren't written.
Oh.
They have to be approved by council unless there's certain ones that have been given prior approval to be printed and done.
Yeah, he's moving.
So they're there for council review, and then if there's any corrections that need to be done, they get corrected, then they get printed, signed, and
Well, we got it an hour ago, so I got a chance to look at it.
is there a day that works for a special council meeting for you, Paul?
I'm open. You know, anything but a Monday or Wednesday, Monday or Thursday.
Anything but Friday.
Hmm?
Anything but
So it'd be
Friday.
a 20-minute meeting or half hour.
I'm assuming.
Can we just take the half
Leave it
hour
in there.
tonight?
Leave it in there then.
Leave it in and take the half hour tonight.
Leave it in there then. If we can't get it out to an hour before the meeting, maybe we need to be here on Friday till it gets done. Okay, anyway. Sounds good. I'll withdraw my motion, take it out of there.
We have items on page 1 of the revenue expenditure and on page 7.
I think there's two instead of one.
Page 193, 198. With no other changes? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved. Okay, the next item is our public forum. The city council welcomes and encourages participation from community members. Please keep in mind that your comments may be pertinent to city business and must adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used. Please do not expect action from the council this evening. Regarding your concerns, to address the city council during public forums, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and fill out the form provided, and speakers will be only recognized once. You will be timed, beginning speaking when the green card is raised by Jason, and the yellow card indicates you have 30 seconds left, and the red card indicates you have reached your 3-minute limit and must stop. With that, we'll open the public forum at 6:38. If anybody would like to speak, please step to the podium. If there's anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? Right. Second call for public forum. And third and final call for public forum. All right, we'll close the public forum at 6:40. Okay. First item is, regarding Joe Palin has a petition or correspondence regarding last month's June flooding.
Yeah, so we did have the opportunity to talk to a gentleman from Minnesota HSEM in regards to last June's flood event. If you remember, there was an attempt by the county to have a presidential declaration for that flood event, which would bring federal money to the city to cover flood damages, as well as the county and other counties. Unfortunately, Olmsted County didn't quite meet that threshold, so there's been a little bit of a lag in the time that it takes to respond to that. However, the state has stepped up and is willing to cover 75% of the flood damage costs, with the city, um, paying the remaining 25%. And so last, August, I put together a memo that's in your packet, identifying 8 areas, within the city, mostly park areas that were damaged by the flood. And why I bring this to the council's attention is, there are 8 areas, areas 1, 2, and 8 are essentially areas where there was flood damage that city staff, city forces took care of the damage and will seek reimbursement for labor, materials, and expenses associated with those repairs. Items 3 through 7 are areas that we haven't completely addressed yet, and items 3, 4, and 7 are basically items 3 through 7 are all areas where more extensive repairs are really required, and we'd probably want to bring in a contractor to complete those repairs, and then we'd seek reimbursement from the state for at least 75% of those costs. And so there are these 5 areas that are kind of talked about in the memo, items again 3 through 7 that we want to decide if we're going to move forward for. And items 3 and 4, item 3, and there's a map in the memo too, if you guys have seen that. Item 3 is really, if you're familiar with the access to the old lake bed underneath Trunk Highway 52, there's a kind of a driveway there, a pathway. Well, that got washed away. That really should be fixed. That's area 3.
Area 3?
Yeah, and there's a map right at the end of the memo, Paul, that shows you exactly where these are.
Yeah.
Area 4 is immediately downstream of the Trunk Highway 52 bridge, is on the south branch. There is a riffle there, and right adjacent to the riffle, there was some flood damage on the river bank that potentially puts the riffle at risk, and it's in close proximity to that pathway. I really feel pretty strongly that that one should be fixed as well. So that's items 3 and 4. Items 5 and 6 are in the old lake bed, and they are on the right by Orinoco Park, kind of on the middle fork, on the northern branch, if you will.
Yeah, 2 bends.
Yep, on those 2 bends, as after it comes under 52 and then starts to meander through the old lake bed. Well, those 2, there's some pretty bad scour on those towwood repairs that were, or towwood structures that were constructed to kind of maintain that bank. And the area 5 and 6 costs are about $76,000 to fix. And to me, that's quite a lot of money. It could be more than that. And even 25% of that is, $19,000, $20,000. And so that's one, a couple items that I think, might warrant the council's consideration. Happy to fix them if you want to. But we could also let nature kind of heal itself there and save the city $20,000, and of course the state, $55,000. So
I think it's gonna, I'm agreeing with what you're saying with that, Joe, off of that. And, my thoughts are that chances are if we get a flood that comes through there again, it's gonna do the same thing. Just to know that that's where that's at and it's a part of it, and we're really not gonna do a whole lot with that area. So I think the way you commented on this, I think is correct off of that stuff too, so.
So I would recommend, item 7 is in Alice Park. There's some scouring and flooding kind of near the Portage Way along the rapids there that probably should get fixed to a lower cost item. And so really areas 3, 4, and 7 are the ones that I'm recommending that we hire a contractor and have fixed, and then we would pursue funding for areas 1, 2, and 8, or essentially work that Kane and his crew have already completed.
Well, isn't area 4 gonna be affected the same way as 5 and 6? You get another flood, it's gonna come up again?
Well, there's that potential, but there's a higher.
Happen, so.
Higher risk there because area 4 is adjacent to a riffle. Areas in a riffle is kind of a rock control structure, and so there's concern that erosion will kind of bypass that riffle and start to cut out more of that little roadway that we have into that, to access that area.
So
And it's important to maintain that riffle basically as,
in order to repair that, what's the best chain of, or the best idea? Add more stones to the riffle
well,
instead of trying to tuck more lumber in the riverbank?
we would probably use rock to repair or stabilize the slope, not necessarily the riffle, because the riffle is the big boulders out in the middle of the channel. They're intact. We just want to stabilize the toe of the slope so that the water stays in the channel and is more armored there. And then that'll,
I see where you're doing 3, and it makes sense to do 3 and 4 both at the same time of when you're underneath there working on that bridge, I would think.
that was my thought as well.
Is that gonna be adding rock, kind of like, the trail of River Park? Between the two neighborhoods?
Yeah,
That area?
that type of
That kind of-
repair.
Okay.
Mhm.
Giant riprap.
Yeah, probably class 4 or 5 riprap. So, and in conjunction with some grading, so there'll be an excavator and some large rock and probably some DNR coordination with that type of repair, but that's what we'd be looking at.
Does that fit into the future use of that park?
We want to protect that area from encroaching any more into the path that we're going to be using going into the lake bed, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's people, if you look at it, there was somebody down there fishing today. You know, and so it's used quite a bit where the people are down there that you wonder, you know. I think that's right.
So before we proceed with anything, I thought it would be appropriate to get council direction on what areas you do want to focus on, because the 25% cost is not trivial. But
So fixing that, is that gonna be subject to future damage in a similar storm? Or are we repairing it such that it can withstand?
well, we're hopefully repairing it to a standard that will withstand future storms, but that said, timing and future storm intensity, a lot of things kind of come into play, and I wouldn't.
That was the intent of the original repair.
For sure. Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah.
And it's been there for a while,
Okay.
okay, I mean, we just don't know nature and what's gonna happen out in western Minnesota that created, you know, why we lost the dam, so.
Yeah, and the lake bed sediments are, stability's a challenge out there. And, it takes a lot of things to come together. It was planned to be more than just structural repairs. It takes vegetation, it takes time, it takes the structural repairs. Those types of things have to kind of come together, and in some instances that hasn't happened like we'd like.
Your cost estimate, that's full cost, right?
They
Or
are,
is
but
that 25, that's what we would pay and get 75 back?
they are construction costs plus engineering costs, but I will also say that I didn't spend hours and hours putting this together. I spent, 4, 5, 6 hours putting this together. This is based on taking a look at it in the field, going back to the office, sitting down and kind of penciling it out based on experience. So they are subject to move around a little bit. Whatever the case is though, the state will cover 75%. And I should also note that the money for 1, 2, and 8 has largely been spent. You paid that, and that includes a lot of Kane and Public Works labor. So you'll get that coming back into the coffer, so to speak. And that should help offset some of the costs for 2025 that would be spent.
Make a motion that we proceed with getting quotes for areas 3, 4, and 7.
Second.
For a second.
A second.
I suppose it's a pretty good time to get quotes now before.
It is, it'll take a little bit of time for me to get it in the queue. Just so you know, I'll do that work just on an hourly basis, like I do a lot of work for the city and put the quotes together. And bring you back the results, just like we would do for a seal coat or a street repair or.
We'll find out what the
Sewer
costs are,
thing,
and we can take to the next step.
Do we want to send this to Parks and Trails and see if any of these areas are places that they would want to maybe see improvements? Or something a little different? Would, like,
I don't think they're focused on that type. I mean, the only one would be the under the 52 roadway, but
Okay.
maybe we can send it to them, but
I don't know, I haven't been to any
they
of
don't
them,
have any
so.
budget either, so.
And the other thing to kind of think about is, this money is focused on flood repair. only.
Okay,
So in terms of significant improvement over the pre-flood condition is not really possible.
okay.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item is our deputy sheriff report. Report. 26 total. Like to speak to anything? I'd appreciate that.
For the month of February, there wasn't a lot of call volume just because of the weather. Recently, there was a burglary at a establishment that we responded to. So we're working on that to see if we can locate any suspects for that case, but as of right now, I'm not aware of any, so based on the evidence that we gathered, so no information to believe this is any type of continued thing or criminal out doing this, because that's the only event we've had for the last year that was an establishment, so. Other than that, we've been mostly focused on traffic enforcement on Minnesota Avenue and Lake Shady Avenue. Patrolling through the park, stuff like that, during the slow winter months, so.
On Minnesota Avenue at 40 and 50 mile an hour, have you seen much?
There's very good compliance, very high compliance. The deputy was up here today for 2 hours and he only had one stop and it wasn't even citable, so. There's pretty good compliance with speed, seatbelts, stuff like that, so. We gotta start focusing on stop signs and other stuff, because as far as Minnesota Avenue, I think they know that we sit on there quite often, so. As far as I can tell, there's not a big need for speed enforcement on there at this time, so.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Public Works. Payne has several items here. You wanna-
Yeah, first off tonight is street sweeping quotes for the city. We do this every spring. Got 2 quotes in front of you. This year, Wiggum Trucking is more economical choice at $185 an hour. And they also did say they would not go over 3,600 total. So whichever is less is what we will pay. So I would request to approve Wiggum Trucking to do the street sweeping.
Make a motion to approve Wiggum.
I'll second just for discussion.
Go ahead.
On that one, you had the funds to come out of streets and roads. I'm just thinking that it might be better, because I'd like to keep as much as we can in streets and roads, because we need so much work off of that one.
Yeah.
Why don't we put this, and this goes with the item that I had in the back, okay, that I want to take a look at. Why don't we put that under standing under 45002? Because we didn't use that much money this year for what we had budgeted for that, and it's sanding down, sanding up. That might be easier way to do it and use that particular line item. I think that's a
Yeah.
better way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I would, seems acceptable. Yeah,
Do they sweep once, twice?
just once.
Just once.
It's just, the
It's
streets,
been 2 years, because we didn't do it last year either.
Well, we had construction with phase 1A project and that was, it's kind of counterproductive when
Over on the other side, on the other side of 52, because we had sand that was there for the years.
and really, I mean, it's been 2 light years, there hasn't been
Right.
much put down this year and much last year, so really, there's a little bit on the side of the road. It's not a lot. If we get a good heavy downpour, a lot of that is taken care of, rain takes care of it, so,
So they figure they can clean it in about 20 hours in a,
yeah.
okay.
Do we know where they're gonna dump it?
I am Doug Wiggum, by the way.
Oh, okay. Do you know where you're gonna dump it?
Well, the city provides a spot as far as I was told. I don't remember the last time I did this was in 2019. And we went out of town. I don't know, the gentleman's name, is that
Yep.
Hawk or something up there?
Yep, we got a spot.
Oh, you got it. Okay, I just didn't know if you had a spot for it. Okay, good. All right.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving Wickham for the sweeping, signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. And then we're gonna move that to that other,
And we'll put under sanding
okay.
4502 this year.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks, Doug.
Next item is porta potties.
Yes, next item, porta potties, we put porta potties in all the parks, 6 total. This year I received estimates from Onsite and LRS. LRS is a new vendor and they are by far cheaper per month. And, there has been a request to add a porta potty to, City Hall here. The playground, the swings, the basketball courts. So that's an option. We could add a 7th porta potty this year and it would be cheaper than last year. So either way, I would request that we go with the LRS for our provider. Now, how long we have that service is up to the council, but May 5th through October 20th or April 21st through November 3rd, kind of 6 or 7 months, depending on what the council wants.
I think that putting one out here makes sense,
It does.
okay, for the kids that
Yeah.
use this, and I think it's gonna bring more over there for that. So I make a motion to approve LRS to at least get started.
With the 7. With the 7.
Yeah, with the 7, and then I would say let's use option 1, May through October. Which I think is gonna good, so with that, it will be before the kids get out of school. For that type of stuff, so I think that makes sense to do option 1 and then put it for 7.
Any other comments from anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor of LRS with the 7 porta potties, May 5th to October 20th, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? It's approved.
Thank you. And then my last request for the night is I've been looking at purchasing a dump trailer for the city. It would be used in 7 different accounts: streets, roads, tree removal, parks, snow removal, water, sewer. So that cost would be split up pretty good. And I think it's something that we would utilize for the next 20, 30 years. I think it's a very useful tool and
can you explain how sand, winter snow removal would use a dump trailer?
well, if we had to remove snow from City Hall or a park or anywhere, we would haul it away.
How would water and sewer use it?
Water and sewer were there's constant excavation of valves, hydrants, leaks, some of that stuff. We will have the ability to take on some of those repairs and those emergencies in the future. And
Well, how often did you haul away 3 yards of material? From a replacing a grinder pump or something like that?
well, I think every
3 yards?
every task is different. I mean, I can't predict what we're gonna be doing or how we're doing it, but I know our current equipment does not allow us to do much.
Do we have a motion here to go on this discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve the, not the purchase of a dump trailer not to exceed 17,000.
And I'll second it for discussion so that we can do stuff. On looking at this stuff, you're taking money away again from streets and roads and park and rec, and this is just the beginning of the year. It's not the end of the year. So you're tapping into a lot of these funds that might be needed as this year goes along. And I could see a lot of it, especially tree removal, everything else. I think since we've already got something that's sitting in the back end of the pickup truck right now that we can use, I would make a suggestion that if you need this, rent it this year. See how often you use it by renting it, and then put it in the budget for next year if it's one of those things, that way you'd be able to make use out of it this year. And we can keep track of how much you're actually using it. Okay, and then make that decision for the next year's budget.
So last year we did use, a friend of mine, we used his trailer and it was great. It was fantastic. I wish we could have kept it.
Well, no, but I'm just saying for $17,000, you know, and especially taking stuff out of the water and the sewer, which, you know, again, you're saying we have remaining funds of those, but again, it's only March. It's not, you know, November. And so I don't really want to spend those funds or have it go that way. I would, you know, for us to rent one, I would suggest doing that and keeping track of how often we used it and see if it makes sense for next year.
I guess I see it as, I support the motion. I think with getting $2,000 is what you're expecting for the dump box. So that brings it down to 15,000. So that's a substantial change for each of the departments. And yes, it's March and it's a partial year, but you've budgeted money for it in the annual budget. So I don't see why we wouldn't want to pursue the purchase now.
Well, if it was in the annual budget and it was there, I didn't see us putting that down for the 17. And if that was the case, then we'll take that away from what you have from the shop, okay, which would be yours alone, and let the other, you know, other areas have still their money that they have to have for the year, so.
I just know that, like our pickups, they support everything we do, right? Our mowers support all of our grounds. Our staff support all of our facilities, right? It's hard to really nail down like a trailer that's like a supporting tool, a supporting piece of equipment. You know, I wish we had a, you know, equipment budget that would cover the entire city. We don't, you know, so that's why I'm trying to split it up between multiple budgets.
I don't go along with, anyway, that's just my comments. I don't go along with taking away from other budgets from those other departments. You know, if again, rent one this year, not saying you can't get what you need, okay, and keep track of how often you use it. Which will give you the access that you need. If you say that you need that, you can do that. And I'm sure you can rent it for a week if you need to do it that way too, you know, so.
Absolutely, there are rental options with anything.
Do you have any idea how many times you used it last year? Borrowed it from your friend?
Half a dozen times last year, you know, but if, like anything, if you
Could have used.
if you had it at your disposal, you would have just hooked onto it and took off. I mean,
I'm under the impression we're running out of storage space for equipment, so it's one of my concerns. Pay that kind of money if it sits outside.
Cause you've already got a trailer they use right now for what you're doing for all your other equipment. So whether it be the mowers or whether it be for the cat, you use the other one. So you've got a heavy duty trailer that we got for you, not but a year ago that we bought that?
yeah, 2 years ago, we bought a equipment trailer, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, anyway. I'd like to make a friendly amendment to Ryland's or a different amendment that we rent instead of purchasing.
Well, the equipment trailer that you use, though, the equipment trailer you use, that's what you use for mowers and stuff, right?
And for the cat.
No, we've got an equipment trailer that, a 12,000 pound trailer that we use for our Caterpillar.
Okay.
You know, this dump trailer, you know, it can do multiple things, you know, I don't need to explain everything.
It's got the tie down.
I'm
It's
just
a
looking at,
flexible.
yeah, no, I'm just looking at what there is, again, for what we've got in the budget. I don't want to take it away from all these other departments that are going on here. I just don't think that's fair.
I'd like to keep the motion as it is, and if it fails, then we can look at the options, so. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, oppose?
No.
No,
Daniel, you're.
No. Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Next time is water and sewer. And, first item is a bylaws, water and sewer committee. We've been working on these since the January meeting. We've gone through a couple of iterations, and the March meeting, March 11th meeting, we are proposing bylaws, which Parks Trails has one. I think P and Z has one. Bylaws or
no, we really don't have a bylaw on it. All we did was take a look at the length of time that people are serving and keep track of that without doing it as bylaws. Okay, and it's worked well with everything. And so that's why I kind of wondered, do we need bylaws or do we just need to keep track of the people that are on there so we know the rotation?
Should have bylaws.
We've been meeting for 27 years, need bylaws now.
well,
I work for.
I'm not sure if it's in the ordinance, maybe.
I don't think it's in the
Ordinance,
ordinance.
Jason?
I don't know, but I know it's customary and standard for most committees, commissions, councils to have bylaws to help give guidance, structure, and, you know, help them perform, because there's a lot of committees here, and there's a lot of questions that come up, and nobody knows what to do because there's no bylaws, there's no guidance for these committees. So that's why they're there, and just because they haven't been there for 27 years doesn't mean that they shouldn't be there. It's one of those things that realistically, every commission, council, group should have a set of bylaws to be able to follow.
I know in our committee meeting, we talked about this several times, and I think it raised a lot of good questions about terms. The president, the vice president, those terms, and I think there's some value from it. As committees go throughout the years going forward, this is just a good document. It's there in front of you. You don't have to very clear with the member seats and the terms and years start. It's just a good record.
Was there a
I encourage
motion?
you to do it. but-
Was there a motion on this one, Ryland?
No, not yet, but I make a motion, we approve the bylaws for water and sewer.
A second.
I just wanted to open it up for discussion that we can do
Now we can have a
that.
discussion. I understand you're president of it, Ryland, on the thing here, and I'd like your name taken off there, and I'd like to put the mayor as the president. So if anytime you're not on there, then the new mayor would be the president of it. If you're gonna accept these.
And that's kind of how you have it on CETA as well, as it's done that way, Ryland. So it would just be keeping everything the same as what you have for CETA being mayor and your name as president. So it would be keeping that as the same as what's going on with CETA right now.
I'd like to keep somebody that's vested in the city council on it, so you work on the city council in 2 years.
Yes,
or
I'm
4 years.
liaison, but I think there's,
If you're there in 2 years or 4 years,
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. That's why.
then they don't have to re-amend the bylaws.
They should be looked at every year though.
and we do look at them every year.
Yeah, which is in January, which I agree.
We will look at it. Same thing with the Gold Rush. We had bylaws, we looked at those on an annual basis, so made
bylaw-
modifications.
Well, Gold Rush is a 501c3, though it was a whole different program.
I'm just referencing what we did 2 years
I understand, but that was a nonprofit.
But I think there are people in the committee other than myself, just because of the mayor, Dylan, I think, could do an excellent job.
Oh, no,
I'm not-
no, we're not questioning any of that.
It's not your name in particular. It's just that you're the mayor today and you're the president of it. I don't have a problem with that, but if you're down the road, if you're no longer mayor, I'd like to see whoever.
10 years from
the mayor
now
is.
or whatever, you want to have it where it can be used and still use the same
That
bylaws.
the mayor would be in charge of. Okay, never mind. Okay.
Other people.
I think as long as it's reviewed annually, it probably doesn't matter to me, but.
I think you could add into your bylaws that the mayor is a sitting member for sure.
Yeah, that's what.
And whether they're president or not, I guess, I don't feel strongly about that, but like, I get what you're saying, where you want the head of city council to also be part of.
That's where
I get that, and I don't know if that's.
And that's a simple way to do it,
Just
is
change
just by
that.
putting that, and you can put your name in there too. As
Yeah.
president, just, but just put add mayor to it, so.
So with the, so we'll add the word mayor, president, mayor, and then my name or in future, whatever yours.
Yeah, whoever, just add that to it.
So with that modification, then we'll, accept the friendly amendment to make that mayor part of the president's description, so.
I just don't think we need bylaws, period, for it. That's me.
I mean, they're pretty simple bylaws, if you look at it, I mean, it's, so I have no problem with that being on there, but.
Any other comments? Okay, all in favor, signify, aye with the modification for mayor, so.
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Approve? Next item is, regarding the wastewater treatment plant component. No, this is for Cedar Woodlands lift station number 1. Payne, you want to speak to the, you found with that,
Yeah.
pump and why we're looking at replacing it?
Yep. So, Cedar Woodlands 1, that lift station does not have generator backup. So in the event of a power outage, we cannot, serve those homes in Cedar Woodlands 1. This quote is for a automatic transfer switch and a dialer that would allow us to hook up our portable generator and transfer power to backup power with an alarm dialer that would notify us of a power outage. Just like similar to the rest of our lift stations, they let us know when they are out of power and that they need generator backup.
It already has a 30 amp hookup in it, right?
Whoa. Motion. I make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay, now we got the discussion going. I've got a question. Okay, the 25-foot cord. Okay, isn't that on all of your generators you have right now for your portable generators?
No.
What do we do with that cord? Leave it sitting over there on the side, over there with the lift station?
Just like an extension cord, like
Yeah,
this.
but, no,
bigger.
I agree with what this needs to be done.
And
Okay,
removable
so
cord.
I'm not questioning that. But if we use a portable generator and we go over to where we just did the other new one that there was on River Bend,
Yep,
okay, you would use some way to hook that up, and I don't see a 25-foot cord over there at River Bend.
it's, those cords are on the generator.
Right. So in other words, I don't think we need an extra cord.
No,
I believe we need the hookup. Why do we need an extra cord? Because we're using universal hookups, right?
no, it's a completely different outlet.
I thought we were having all of those the same so that we could use the same generators to move between the different lift stations in the city.
This is a smaller generator or a smaller
Lift station.
electrical requirement. It does not need the large,
Okay, that
It's a 50 amp already
answers,
here.
that answers my question. That's why I was just wondering about that. But to have the rest of it, absolutely, and you've got to have the remote to be able to know when the power goes out. and all of those that are associated, the same as you did with the rest. That was my only question, was on, the court, the 25-foot court, if that was really necessary or we didn't need it for that reason, so.
I have two questions. What's the life expectancy of this?
Of the transfer switch,
Of your generator, your hookup with this?
the transfer switch is what we're talking about tonight. The generator, we've got a portable generator.
Oh, okay, the switch then.
So hopefully that lasts 20 to 30 years, right? I can't predict that.
Hopefully,
but-
he's hoping he doesn't have to plug it in every year.
So we do run our generators yearly, so, they do get worked out and we do transfer power, and that is something that is required to keep up on the maintenance of them. The transfer gear itself, though, that should last 20, 30, 50 years, just like any other main switch gear, so.
What budget are you taking this out of?
This would be part of the 602 sewer budget. And you'll see that that is not in your packet. Because we don't really have budgets for water and sewer, we don't have that.
What?
No, again, that, my main thing was, I know we need to have that.
Yeah,
We
it
had
needs
talked
to be.
about that a few months ago, of what needs to be done over there, and we have to have a way to.
The city needs a lot of things. This is one critical component.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the purchase, signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose?
Thank you.
Approved. In your packet, page 50, there is a project priority list for phase 1B that water and sewer is looking at. Any questions regarding what's being proposed there?
Yeah, I got a question, because we were looking originally at this at 2030. For getting started on that, what's the reason to move it up 2 years and put the city with another $8 million that we're responsible for? Yeah,
Yeah, Joey, if you want to talk, I believe it's MPC's expectations.
So we have had some correspondence with PCA, and all this is placement of the project on the project priority list. So, the project priority list is good for at least 5 years, and these projects develop and move very slowly. And so we had the opportunity to get on the list, and we also identified some potential funding to initiate the facility plan, some of the planning documents necessary. There is some bonding bill funds that remain unspent, about $46,000. And as we looked at the project priority list and initiating that project, starting to do some of the planning work for it, talking with PCA and PFA, they identified that as an option. We could use some of that grant funding to fund a good chunk of the facility plan necessary for phase 1B. And
the $46,000 will take care of all that engineering costs?
it won't take care of it all, but it'll take care of a good chunk of it. And so that's one of the reasons that this is advantageous, because if we don't use that, we'll spend it on the construction piece. It's either going to use on the remaining construction, essentially the retainage that we have left to final out the contracts, or we can use the loan, the 1% loan over 30 years. And so, but we can't use the loan money to fund the facility plan work for phase 1B, but we can use the bonding bill money for that if we choose to. And so we identified that as we talked this through with the PFA or the MPCA. And I completed the application. It is just an application, and it doesn't obligate
Yeah,
us.
because we were talked to pretty specifically about bonding and funds that there are available in grants, and it's not going to be too good this year. for what's coming out of the
Right,
state,
but this is out of the 2020 body bill. There's money left from.
but just the 46,000.
Yes, that's all that remains.
Okay, so before this would, I mean, if you did that, you put the application, before that would move forward, we would know ahead of time off of this, because I think that maybe this 196 people might like to know that they're gonna have a pretty extensive cost go to them, that they're not planning on it, in the next 2 years, that they were
Well,
planning on it for 2030.
Yeah, and it would still be in that 2030 horizon by the time we actually
Okay.
moved it forward.
That's why I was
Just gotta
kind of
remember, this
questioning.
moves at snail,
Okay,
snail's pace. It will take
Okay,
years
that-
to develop this.
And
to
that
get the funding.
explains it, because I was looking otherwise, that it's like, that might be
He's
kind of a
looking-
burden.
What I see he's looking at is he's saying to get it to the state's project priority.
Okay,
So-
which is
so
what he
get-
explained,
get
so
the
that's.
BCA stuff.
So
They move it.
the big picture though, they are willing to, we kind of talked through the scoring for the project for the phase 1B. We will get a score of 67 points, which is the same as we got for phase 1A. That is good. That will make us competitive moving forward. So, and we check that box. It's the first step to moving forward. And we identified some potential funding to pay for the first phase of engineering work necessary to start to march that project forward. And it is a slow process and it will take time to develop the engineering and the work and the grant funding and the loan funding, but it's a start. And so really that was what we did here. And I was thrilled that we were able to identify some money that potentially we could use. And I was thrilled that they were willing to score our project with the same score that we previously had. I will also say that the number in here is just my best guess,
Okay.
based on some ratios and some calculation, but not a detailed analysis. The other piece is just looking at the map and
Yeah, yeah.
understanding that is kind of nice to know what you have left.
Oh, absolutely, and I think the numbers are great too, on the 196 and 5. Oh, I had a question too on the 5.
Commercial purpose.
Huh?
They're commercial property.
Oh, those are commercial, okay, non-residential, okay, there was also one that was, where we couldn't get water to, what's that,
Jassic edition,
6 street lanes.
6 lanes, 6.
Yeah.
So how would we do that? How would you, if you don't have water in to know the water out, how are you gonna?
They're on wells now, so they
you
would have
meter the
to,
well, then is that what you would do?
well, we'd have to figure something out in that way. They would likely be on grinder stations, so we could meet up, put like a runtime meter on the grinder station. There's different ways you could do that. The reason they're not included is simply because our water system at this point is, we don't have the head.
Right.
They're too high
Right.
for us to service, and so they would be part of a future phase to get water. But we were kind of targeting when we did phase 1A, all the other developed properties in the city would be served in phase 1B. Well, that's what we're doing. And there's actually 3 areas that we wouldn't need to service with water. Jassix is the only one that we can't serve. The other 2 have been served.
So question, on that Jassic, is that all in one well or is it? or is
I
it-
honestly, I don't know.
Okay, I can't answer you either.
I
Kane,
think they're shared wells, but I
think there's a
don't
couple,
know.
3 of them.
do you know, Kane, is that one well up there?
They're shared.
Shared out of one well.
There's probably 2 or 3.
I think
Probably 2 or
multiple.
3
There's
to
a couple. There's a couple.
probably 2 or 3 wells, homes to a
I think there's
well,
like 10 homes up there, 10 or 12.
something like that.
And Jim, you make a good point about the phase 1 being the residents and just getting the information out, but it's still an FYI, but we'll be going through, like we did with phase 1A information meetings. And phase 1B was mentioned in our feasibility report,
Right, right.
several pages, so.
So I was just
Same
kind of
process.
wondering about that when I looked at this, how far it was, and it's like, okay, I just want to make sure that.
But it is, it took us 9 years to get what we got.
Mhm.
But at the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but this is all mainly infrastructure. There's no lift stations. It's just lateral lines in the streets servicing. And there'd be one boring probably under the river to connect to.
So all in all, tonight, it's just informational, that's.
Just FYI.
Yeah, no, I think
Submitted
that's
the
great,
application.
okay, and you explained what it was, and those were my concerns that I had, so.
Good.
So, good news generally, I thought.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Planning and zoning. Next is a
Phil,
resolution.
yeah, Phil's on for the lot split, you on there, Phil?
Yes, can you hear me, Council?
You want to go over the brief description on this and then, to go over, the conditions for approval?
Yes. So, Mayor and Council, the request in front of you is a lot split at 1215 West Center Street. It's really very straightforward, but there are a couple of details to it that are pointed out in my report and that are covered in the resolution. The lot split creates two lots, about 2.5 acres each. This is a piece of property that was split late last year from a larger parcel, and the other parcel, what I'll call the northern parcel, 1165 First Street Northwest, is separate and now preparing to be built on. And this is the southern part of that earlier lot split, now itself being divided into two lots, one that would front on West Center Street, and it would have a long frontage on West Center. The other, that's parcel A. Parcel B is the northern of these two and has just a very narrow frontage on First Street Northwest, only 16.5 feet, because the right-of-way of First Street is only 33 feet wide, and so it shares that frontage off the cul-de-sac of First Street Northwest with the other property that was previously split off. But that frontage, which is less than the code minimum, was already approved with a variance in the previous lot split, so that isn't an issue with this request here. There is also the need for an easement, a drainage and utility easement on the east side of both these lots of this property for utility extension, and so that is included in the resolution here. I should point out that there was some discussion about the width of that. 5 feet on either side of a lot line is typical, and there was 10 feet shown, and the question was, well, isn't there already a 5-foot easement on the adjacent property to the east, on the west side of that property? And if we need 20 feet for the future utility extension, can't we just take 15 feet from this property and therefore 5 feet on the other? I did look, and the lots on First Street Northwest were all platted many years ago, back in the 40s, I believe all of them were, before those kinds of drainage and utility easements were required. So it's my belief, I can't verify it for certain, but it's my belief that the adjacent lots do not have 5-foot easements. And so we would request that there be a 20-foot easement on this property to allow for those utility extensions. In your packet is Resolution 2025-05 that would approve this lot split with the 4 conditions. Number 1, that the utility easement on the east side of parcels A and B be widened to 20 feet with an easement prepared and recorded to be reviewed and approved by the city engineer and city attorney. Number 2, that all requirements of the city engineer pertaining to sewer, water, and other infrastructure and engineering issues will be followed. 3, the new parcel B will be assigned an address on First Street Northwest to be approved by the city engineer. And number 4, the driveway access to parcel B from First Street Northwest is to be coordinated with the access for the lot to the north, if at all possible. So this is a an encouragement, not a requirement. There is a picture in our report that shows how there is a driveway and home to be built on that northern parcel. And it would certainly be convenient for all involved if the new driveway for this parcel B could be coordinated with that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer questions. Of course, Joe Palin had comments about the engineering infrastructure in the memo as well.
Does someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the lot split.
I'll second it.
Okay, your discussion, comments?
Yeah, Bernie, is that okay with the 20 if we don't know what's going on the other? Because they're here though. Two people. You wanna?
If that's what it has to be, yeah.
Just to confirm to see if there wasn't an extra 5 on the other side there, you know.
Highly unlikely. I thought it was stated that it was, that every city lot had it.
The new city ordinance requires, the current code requires it, but it certainly didn't in the 40s. When this, in fact, it probably was not platted when it was subdivided by meets and bounds or however it would have been at that point in time. Currently, if you plat a new subdivision in the city, we would require that it be surrounded by easement. But that
Would it be 20 feet? I'm just curious, is that the new stuff would be 20 feet on each side of the lots?
Well, it depends. Like between lots, if there are no proposed utilities, it would be 5 feet on both sides. But in this instance, we do have a utility need through that corridor, and that's why it would be 20 feet, which is really the minimum width that we need for a trunk facility.
So if we had 2 dead-end lines, one of them coming at the end of First, okay, and the other one on the end of Center, as that goes out, you wouldn't be connecting those anyway, because you would be past that as you bring the water in, right? Because you were trying to do a loop, is what you were trying to do.
I would hope to do that in phase 1B, honestly. That'll be up to the council, but I really, from my perspective, from the engineering perspective, I really want to see that water main go in. I really think it's the right thing to do, and it's the best thing for the residents up there and the system.
No, and I was just looking at that area that's up there. And so you've got development that's going down Center that goes up further than what you find on First. Because First runs into the cul-de-sac that's there. Okay. And so if you're doing that, the further, the growth might be west. In which you turn around and you still have a dead end that would be on that water main that would be heading on the West Center, wouldn't you?
So the dead end that exists there right now is on First, well, it's on First and West Center Street. Well, West Center Street, that water main will ultimately go down, I think it is 7th Street.
Something like that.
It'll extend south, go under the river and loop back down into Riverwood Hills. But First Street Northwest, with the lot split and development that is occurring now, can never go through because it's private. The only option is for it to go south. There's no water main infrastructure north. So the only option is for it to loop to West Center Street. And so this 20-foot easement would allow that. It's the minimum width that we could really work in to get that done.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious looking at it. I didn't think about 7th and because I haven't seen that full diagram of how you were going to do that with the water. I mean, that's just a question I had.
Yeah, it's something we've always thought about doing even when Randy Bartz was talking to us back in 2019-ish, something like that. He wanted to develop that acres and we thought about looping it between First Street and West Center Street. So it's something it has been discussed, but I think it's to leave it 10 foot would be, it's unfortunate that with those 2 parcels are going to have dead end water, but it'd be great to have that 20-foot easement there.
Yeah, no, again, I'm just, looking future wise of what was going on and how you were doing it. So those are the questions that I had.
But wouldn't
Bernie?
it wouldn't just be those 2 parcels that are dead in water, it's all the way up the street.
It is now, yeah.
It's everybody coming up the street, it's dead end water
It is.
until it crosses.
And then the hope is to eliminate that someday.
You said the podium, please.
I used to work for the utilities municipal. I understand the need for, dead ends are terrible. You get sediment, you get all kinds of problems with it. And I understand the need for a loop. I was just hoping it wouldn't be 15 foot or 20 foot of my property. That it would maybe be 15 or something. But I understand it. I get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, just to build on that too, we don't, it's just an easement, like property owner maintains title of the underlying property. It's just the city would have an easement to, which essentially gives it the right to construct that facility. It doesn't mean that it can't be used.
Once it's
Once it's
constructed,
done, it'd be done anyway, and so you could, take care of it.
once it's constructed, you can plant shrubbery on it and stuff, not a problem.
Some things, I prefer not big trees because we'd wanna probably get through there for maintenance at some point, whether it's in 5 years or
Well, 40.
75 years. Sometime it will need maintenance.
So if it is approved for the 20 foot, do we have to have a new survey certificate made out to show the 20 foot?
No,
Here it says it's
what you
required.
need is an easement agreement. So an easement agreement I think I've given the property owner, or at least their consultant, a document prepared by Mike, the template that we have, and it legally describes what you can use with, what the easement is, has a legal description, the west 20 feet of these two parcels and east 20 feet of these two parcels. And, it has a legal description of that. It talks about what the easement is and what rights the city has for it. And then that document is executed by the property owner and by the city, and then it's recorded. Not complete until it's executed by all the parties and it needs to be recorded. And so we would ask that the property owner and their engineer or surveyor prepare that easement document. It's honestly, it's pretty simple. And then bring that in after you've signed it, had it notarized, and then the city would sign and notarize it and needs
So
to
the
be.
Mike's got that then, no.
Mike and I, we've executed similar easements through Orinoco many times.
Okay. Yeah,
And so-
I just have one question about it. I understand everything that you're saying, and that Phil is saying, but so is the idea that the lot split's gonna be recorded now, but then the easement's gonna be brought back to council like next month? Or is the vote tonight to approve the mayor and clerk to sign the easement whenever we get it?
I think,
Yes.
I think that that's the way it's going. Yeah, we've been through that, and I think that's exactly what it is, so.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. It's pretty straightforward utility easement language. I mean, if you look at 100 utility easements, they probably all say about the same thing. It's just a question of checking the legal description, which I think staff can do. As long as the council approves that tonight, we could just verify the legal is correct.
As
And
long as the property owner's okay with it, I'm okay with it. So
right.
that's my concern.
I do have a question. It was stated that a legal description was submitted to the previous landowner or not? For an easement, a document for an easement.
I submitted the easement document. It's just a Word document. It's like a 2 or 3 page Word document. I can
Okay.
resubmit that to you or somebody else if need be.
Saves the paperwork.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know that I have, I can maybe get it to Jason and he can give it to you. I don't know if I have your email address.
Jason's been very helpful there. I just want to say that. And we've been coming to him for a lot of stuff, so. All right, thank you.
So do you need to make amendment to the motion about the legal document for the easement, or is that just kind of understood?
It's actually in here in the writing, okay? where it says the 20-foot with an easement.
It says
Okay, under
Oh, yeah.
conditions for
Number-
approval, number 1, so it's already there. Okay, we were just gonna make a different comment on 15 to 5 of what we had talked about planning on zoning, you know, so the 20 is already there.
Any other comments? Seeing none, Jason, if you use the voice vote.
Mayor Eichelberg,
Aye.
Councilman Phillips,
All right,
Councilman Pendergrass,
I,
Councilwoman Reisdorfer,
Aye.
Councilman Spring,
I,
It's approved. Okay. Update, WSB steering committee. Let's you have that status?
yeah, I guess, my understanding, there's 4 chapters that you're going over with Mike, right, or your people?
he,
Oh,
he got back, he said he's good with that date. to get
okay,
it
so
done.
the
He has
7th,
most of
so
them
we're
done. Yeah.
looking at April 7th is.
Yeah, you want to speak up?
Yeah, can I make a few comments? So we're working through it. We've given back 6 comments on 6 of the chapters so far. And then Lori has reviewed my comments on 2 of them, or 3 of them actually, and then she's under review on the other 3. And then we're working on, she sent me 4 more chapters that we're going to get her reviewed and get back this week. I think that date will work, but it's very tight simply because I think Lori's going on vacation. This is Lori at WSB is going on vacation that the week before the 7th, and I'm going to be on vacation the week before the 7th. So I think it'll be tight, but I think I'll be able to do my review. The question I have is if I get it to her, you know, on the Friday before she goes on vacation, is she going to get her review and comments by the 7th?
Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not. So I can get it done. I mean, the question was, can I review them by that date? Yes, I can review them. Whether it's ready for in final form, you know, they still have, I don't know what the 7th date was meant for, but I think at the next step, as I had a meeting with her, and I think the next step is to codify it, like put the numbers of the sections into the documents, which she hasn't done yet, because, you know, we're going to change a little bit. So I don't know how long that's going to take her, but I can certainly do my review on or before April 7th.
Okay,
Whether or not, you know, that'll move it forward, but she's going to need more time, I think, after that to get it, you know, cleaned up and
All
ready,
we
I
want to
guess.
do with this is just make sure that it's moving ahead because we want to get that as soon as possible. And it's in writing, and so it's at that stage before it ends up going to us and then to the public for a public hearing off of this stuff. But it's moving that far where we're at on it, so.
I don't have a ton of concerns with it. I mean, a lot of it is public policy. It's not really legal. I have changed a few things in a couple of the administration chapters that I thought was important that she's going to probably highlight, but, and then I've made there's other typos like the misspelling of Olmsted County, for example. And so I changed a bunch of stuff like that, or, you know, handfuls of stuff like that. So we're doing a thorough review, and I did this for, I just did this for Plainview, and, you know, I've done it for other cities too. And it's WSB really does most of the work. And I guess in this case, you've had a steering committee too, on top of WSB. So I'm not changing the meaning of anything. I just want to make sure, you know, that the legal standards, like the practical difficulty standard is an example. I struck out a little bit of language that I thought was extra over and above the statute that kind of makes it confusing, and you want to follow that one with the statute pretty carefully. So stuff like that. I mean, we're going to make small changes, but things like what the zoning designations are, you know, that's really not my area. I mean, if I spot something obvious, I will point it out, but I'm not going to go in red line and change it. I think it's up to the city to determine what should be a permitted use and conditional use and that kind of thing. If I see some obvious glaring things I think are different than other cities, but honestly, I think WSB did a pretty good job here, and I think they know what they're doing. So and they have attorneys that work there too. So it's not like this hasn't been reviewed before. So that's my comment on it. I guess it's moving forward. I mean, it's not, we're able to review them pretty quickly, but she's sending them in batches because there's so much of it. And then she's got to review what I do. So we're kind of just doing it in chunks, and, you know, we're moving it forward.
Thanks, Mike. I think the 7th date was just so we had something for the 10th agenda.
So it's just moving
Yeah.
ahead is what we want to do, is just keep moving, so.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Mike.
So do you have a goal of by end of May or?
Well, we're trying to work, I mean, it's moving pretty fast now, okay? So we've had most all of our steering committee meetings. Okay, and it's in the writing stage, and then she's getting those over to Mike. So, I mean, I don't have a date, but it's moving that fast on what we're doing, so.
Well, we know it's important for everybody and our developers too that are interested, so.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we're pushing as much as what we can do to get that done.
They're moving
Just be very mindful of that, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
That was kind of the object of doing it when they did it. Get things in motion. Planning and zoning did that at that time to
Okay,
bring things together.
all right, thank you. Fire department,
Thanks, Mike.
we have a application approving a hiring of an applicant Ryan B. from Rochester.
Yeah, you see the application that's here for Ryan. He's got, a lot of stuff done that there is for certifications already with Fire 1, Fire 2. And also as well as hazmat, as you see on here. So, he has a lot of experience to go along with it. I think he'd be a good addition to the fire department.
You make a motion?
I make a motion to, approve, Ryan Fee, for the fire department.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Marie, thank you. Do you have any idea how many firemen we have from Rochester?
That's,
Well, no, it is, it's a good one. This is in the northern part of it, so we've got a few that are there that wouldn't be the first call. You know, on an emergency type basis, but they could be there a little bit later, but. I think it's a good fit with what he's got with, you know, his training and everything without having to go and spend for any of that training that goes along with it.
well, it seems like,
Yeah.
you know, it costs $4,000 for turnout gear for somebody, so I have a difficult time doing that.
Yeah, it is. It's,
Huh?
we have a budget and that's important, but.
I understand that, but what's the average report time of somebody to show up for a fire call? Is it from Rochester, from Center Street in Rochester out here, it's 12 minutes drive time, so I'm guessing it's probably 20 to 25 minutes. Actual getting out of answering your phone and getting up and going. You know, that's before they open the firehouse door. But I know that's not the only one from Rochester, so.
He's very experienced and I can understand why there's interest, but I just think we need to be mindful of the effectivity of somebody living in Rochester. And I know there's other people living in Southwest Rochester too, so.
Country Club
Any
man.
other comments?
Are we approving fire department and first responder? Because it looks like applications for both. or-
It's for both, isn't
It
it?
looks like it's both circles.
The application is
Yeah,
fire
EMT,
department and
yeah.
the first responder.
According to the request by Dan, it was only for fire department.
He's also got, certification on EMT as well.
And that may be what he circled, but Dan only.
No, I'm
Yeah,
with you on that.
I'm just explaining what Dan put out. So
Appreciate it.
it may come back in a later one that he wants to do both, I don't know. So.
I think something that we should look at is figure out how many we have from Rochester and how many we're currently having from Orinoco and figure out.
I do have an updated fire roster list that I asked Dan for last month that he got me, that I can send out to council if you'd like.
Okay.
So it's got their current firefighters and addresses.
I think that'd be great.
You can just a discussion with our fire department as well and figure out if they've got bodies or if they're just trying to continue to get more.
No, I mean, the discussion has been had.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I don't want to see us be short, but I don't want to see it take a half hour for somebody to get out here either.
Yeah, I hear that.
If I may, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about this in my part too, but I know that's you know, that's always a concern of, I hear from citizens too, is how long it takes to get people in here and, you know, from out of town, because they know we have folks from out of town. And so that is a worry for them as well, so it's just something to keep in mind.
It's a viable concern, so.
Any other comments? All those in favor of Brian, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's approved. Storm spotter training. Monthly minutes are in the consent agenda.
And if you, has anybody done that? I mean, that.
I was just gonna say, council mayor, do you get anybody else have anything for me tonight, or you got early?
You don't want 11:30 meeting?
They get late. Good night.
If anybody hasn't done one of those, I'll tell you what, it's really good to have that storm spotter training.
Yeah, I did one
It's
several years
awesome.
ago.
It really is.
Reminder. All right, fire relief. Just an update, there was a negative profit in general, I guess, from Tilly's. Is there a reason why it dropped so much?
Ken, do you wanna address that a little bit,
Can you
Ken?
speak to us, sir?
We had a really good month in January, which means we had to pay a lot for gambling taxes. We had to pay a lot for rent. And we had to pay a lot on the ETAB revenue share, which is probably our three biggest expenses.
Oh, okay.
Because we pay those the next month I paid those in February for a January month. So I had $48,000 in income for January, and I paid for those in February. And then we only had $28,000 in income for February. But I had a lot of expenses, which means I had a pretty bad month.
Yeah.
We also had the theft that there was too, that's not a part of this, I don't think, is it? You know, and that theft is about,
That happened in March, so.
yeah, so that's about $800 that we lost out of that too, that happened, so.
A lot of cold days too.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for fire, first responders? Request for a key locks box program.
Yeah, I can talk about it. So they want to use some of the city communication channels to keep residents aware. There's a firebox, key lockbox program that they are working with some of the businesses. Basically, it's a little realtor key that they put by their front door, and then the fire and first responders have a master key, which would then let them into the house or business without having to break down the door or through a window. All the expenses would be, as a resident, if you're interested in it, that would be accrued by them. So there's no financial implications to the city besides just having easier access.
So this is more for residences, right?
No, it's
And
more
some
for-
businesses.
And businesses,
I think there's like 6 businesses that have them so far.
and the businesses have been very open off of doing that so that they can get in whenever they need to. You know, for fire, which is different first responders, so.
So they just want to make it more awareness for some of the residents if they're interested.
I think it's a great program.
So who would purchase these?
If I wanted one, I would purchase it as a homeowner.
Oh, okay, we're not.
Nope, we wouldn't
I
purchase
think
anything.
Didn't we have like 2 that were extra ones that were there at the fire department, or 1 extra?
I think there's a couple, but
You know, that we had, so they're there and available now with that. type of
So they go through a new set, they get a new set of these, can they be keyed the same?
Yeah, there's a code you have to request.
Okay, okay.
it's like a master key, and then you put your house key
Sure.
in the box. So it's not like they have all the keys to everyone's house. I mean, they do, but
Would someone make a motion?
I make a motion to,
Well, we don't really
we
need
don't
a
have
motion
to.
for anything, do we?
it's more just use
Do we need a
city
motion for this?
channels to advertise it.
Yeah, okay, I make a motion that we use city channels to advertise, okay, the lockbox.
Second.
So it's strictly case by case basis. You know, for that price, that's probably more of a business related.
Yeah, there's some different pricing models depending on what box you buy. I think the cheapest one was like 75 up to 300, so. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Council minutes, EDA, monthly minutes, consent. Parks and Trails,
Yep, this one I can
fireworks.
talk about. So Lions Club approached Park and Trails, to offer to do 4th of July fireworks. They have been requesting to waive the $100 gathering fee. They will shoot them off at Orinoco Park. We need to consider, extending some of the quiet hours based on timing for that, as well as understanding that we want to make sure that we're looking at noise ordinance for that duration. They will be using the same individual that has shot them off before, and they do have insurance, that would be provided for that. So looking to approve, the Lions Club to shoot off some fireworks for 4th of July and then waive that gathering fee.
You make a motion.
Did you make a motion, Randy?
No, I'm asking.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'll second for discussion. There's a couple things that just come to mind right away. And we've looked at the fireworks thing, I think for the last, 3 years, I think, Ryland? Because we were pulling it through Gold Rush. Yeah, off of that. So I don't know how much they're planning on spending, but it would be interesting to know, because I know we were at a budget of
Right
20,000.
now, it's in that $7,000 to $8,000 range, probably.
Okay,
I know they'd like to spend more, and that may come more with how many businesses supported in the Lions, so. That's about a
Yeah,
30-minute show if
He
everything
said
goes
about
all
20 to
together.
30 minutes.
yeah, so that was a question. And then the other thing, once we start doing this and waiving the fees, if we waive that $100, then it's like, well, let's see, that means Gold Rush can come in and ask for their fees to be, removed as well. And I think we're opening a door that we want to be careful of who will use this to continue to do stuff where we're losing a little bit of money that there is with the city. So that's number one, just not looking at the Lions, because I love the Lions and what they do, and I think this is good. The other thing that there is that I think that they might take a look at too, is we're gonna have to probably have the fire department that's out there as well. And with the fire department, there's charges now for those on 1 hour, 2 hour rates. I think, Jason,
Volunteer their hours.
they're gonna volunteer their hours? Okay. Again, that was one of those, I'm just looking all the way through to make sure that we had everything covered that we were looking at. I hadn't heard about this when I was at the fire department about that, so that's what I didn't know, so I was just checking.
Yep, they offered to volunteer their hours for that.
Okay. I mean, that's just a concern like I have. I mean, we did the ducks that we would love to have not had to pay $100 for the ducks going down last year, and they had to pay. And that's where the minute you open this up, I think it's gonna be opened up to everything, although I'm behind 100% of what they're doing, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great event, and it draws a lot of people there. There's hundreds of people that usually come to these, and it's really, let alone the people on the highway that stop too, so. And I think this waiving the fee, they are nonprofit, I believe they have nonprofit status. So I think that's a plus, and they would appreciate that waiving, so. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Yeah, I'm opposed just because it's gonna open the door for who else is asking for the $100 fee to be waived, and that's gonna open that up. You're setting a precedent, so I said no. I said no.
4-1, okay. Next item is the Employee Relations Committee, and there was a late afternoon email that everybody got a copy of those. Or did you have copies made?
They were emailed.
So I got it. Sorry.
They were emailed.
What's that?
They were just emailed, I think.
Yeah, they were at the last minute.
Yeah. No copies, Paul?
Okay.
Okay. Well, the first one is for the city clerk.
And which one was number one was that, the second, oh, let's see what was put in here. Okay, I got that. Couple things that there. Need a motion first.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
For discussion on this, election management expertise, you know, I'm a head election judge and people don't go in, election group handles that stuff, but I understand that part of it. I didn't see where I've got what our work history is. Can I get a copy of that? In a resume? All you have is a qualification part instead of the rest, and I would like to see that before. I mean, the rest looks good. I just would wanna check that. Is she gonna be moving down here?
Yes, she's moving to St. Charles.
Okay,
She's up in the cities right now, wants to get back home.
okay,
Has the family's moving down to a home place again.
okay. I mean, I did, you know, but I'd love to see her experience that she has behind it. Other than just putting in here for 4 years, so I'd like to know a little bit more.
In the past, with personnel committees, we've never, at least I don't remember seeing resumes being shared with the council, mostly relations, personnel committee making a recommendation based on the resumes. So.
He does cover Minnesota clerk certification too.
She does, okay, oh, that's, I kind of glanced, again, I looked at this so quick with what we were given, I didn't have a chance to go in detail of what was going on. And I see that for certification education.
But I do think, like she says, Rachel brings the city clerk experience, and that's something that will come in and immediately be aware of the operations of the city clerk and background. So I think it's a big plus for us, for Jason, and just for everybody in general. So
I think the one thing that we talked a little bit about in her after interview is with Burnsville, obviously they have a bigger operation than Orinoco, so she can be underwhelmed with that. But it does give her an ability to get involved in a lot of different things versus it's unlike Burnsville, they kind of were siloed. So.
Jason, you're pretty underwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
No, I like the qualifications with what was going on with the stuff and what I saw and what it looks like here and I thought you came in pretty good too with the number 2. That looked pretty well qualified as well, which is, you know, I commend you for coming up with these type of people that there are that came in, which is really good, you know, so.
So I would, I guess we should have done this with the motion, but I will amend the motion to insert Rachel Shopikins in the motion for position of city clerk.
Second.
Yeah,
So you probably have to accept.
I'll say.
And okay, the date, April 7th is a Monday, first Monday in April, so.
Start of new pay period. Monday, gives the proper 2 weeks for people, a little bit of extra, a few extra days.
I have to say she's overqualified in election management. In Burnsville, I think she said she managed 17 precincts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than we have here, okay, because, you know, I mean.
She was excited about it though. She really likes the election stuff, so she was really excited to be able to jump in and help with that.
Yeah, well, Olmsted County kind of watches that pretty close, being head judge. I know what goes on with that and what takes place inside the room, so. But I think that is great, you know, to have the expertise and knowledge that there is behind it, so.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by hiring Rachel. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Approved. Item is administrative assistant. We interviewed candidates and we are proposing to recommend Melissa Griggs for administrative assistant. She brings a lot of good experience with having her own business and what she's done also at the online auctions and
Is she still running that?
Self-motivator.
She's still running that stuff?
She's managing the store, I think. I'm not, she's not, I think the in-laws are running it, but I think she's just a manager there, so.
Is she gonna
That
give-
was going on.
She did say she was gonna transition from online auctions to admin support here. So she would discontinue that.
So I make a motion, we approve the hiring of Melissa Griggs for the position of administrative assistant.
Second?
Daniel, thank you.
She's the president of Gold Rush too, right, or something like that?
Yes, she's on the Gold Rush board.
Is that gonna conflict with what she's doing with the city? Being in Gold Rush and the city are separated?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
No.
Well, I just clarifying that.
That's a good question. I think it's just a matter of, we also have a licensing agreement that comes from the council. That she would sign for it. We'll probably do that here. I think it's already been started.
Well, Gold Rush is a 24/7 job, answering phones and setting up spaces.
I'm familiar with it. Joanna's still in charge of event coordinator, so.
Okay.
I'm still doing the logistics, so it can be very busy towards July and August, so.
I just want to see that conflict with it either.
And this is the part-time from 11 to 4 and.
Oh, okay, this is okay,
Yeah.
this is,
Part-time, full-time. So.
Jason would have to manage that if it became an issue.
What's that?
Jason would have to manage that expectation if it became an issue.
I was just looking on the job offer, administrative assistant, didn't say part-time on that. Do we want to change the heading off of that to make that part-time?
I think the description was.
The description was part-time, yeah, I just didn't put it in the memo title. And, yeah, we'll make sure that that's in there.
so that's in the administrative assistant part,
And
PT.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Process here. So Jason, are you gonna reach out to our candidates?
Yes, I'll start reaching out to the candidates.
The last one is a public works assistant position. Tyler Henning. I make a motion, we hire Tyler. For a second.
I'll second that.
All right.
Looks like he's been around a while.
Yeah, he's a mid-career type person and he's spent a lot of time for the last 8 years, 7 years with DMC Plumbing and Heating. Managing the shop, running machinery, like you said. Prior to that, he was in the welding fabrication.
Yeah, he's got DOT and all that stuff too.
What's
So that and he has DOT,
Yeah,
commercial driver's license.
got some background from Riverland electronics technician, but he can handle wiring what we have here, I think, so that's a good plus, so. And with all of our employees, they're, especially the full-time, there's a 90-day probation, so. Any other comments or questions?
Okay, is he gonna be able to rebuild some of the stuff that there are for the lifts, for the grinders? Yeah. I mean, which I think will be good to be able to do that and repair some of that stuff, which is great. So.
no other comments?
I just want to make it clear, and this kind of comes to is, with him, I do know when we were going through the interview, there was a lot of questions about pay and things like that. I think he's sitting at a higher pay. So there may be a possibility of him rejecting it based off of the recommended wage. But I don't think it's in the city's budget to be able to afford what he was talking. I think he's around 31, 32, something like that right now. And that's just not where we're at with our wage. So that may be, just so everybody's aware, it may be rejected because of that.
But we also have some awesome fringe benefits that go along with it when you take a look at what we have with the city. It's
We
great.
do, and he made a comment about asking if, instead of, say, for like the health insurance, instead of us paying for the health insurance, if we could just give him that money. And I was like, no, the city doesn't do that. So, like I said, I think financially there may be some concern on his part there. So just so everybody's aware that maybe something that might come up, but
Well, if he's employed where we said he's employed at, this is gonna be a step up regardless of the pay.
He doesn't have benefits now.
Exactly, he does.
Right.
He does not.
Exactly, he doesn't have any benefits,
So I think that
Doesn't
there's a
get-
lot that the city offers.
doesn't get,
that's-
doesn't get.
oh, don't disagree at all. I'm just saying what he was
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
no, I'm just, yeah.
There was a
that's the part
concern
that's
because of
really
that,
good with our
but-
city. Yeah, so.
All right. There's no other comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, approved.
Good job.
Next item is our City of Orinoco Personnel Policy Manual.
I have a question. So Jason, if they decline the offer, what's the next step for any of the three?
So with the city clerk one, we have the second individual that was on our list, I think would be a valid offer. I think we discussed it as the committee.
Do we wanna look at that second offer for cities?
I think
City clerk?
I'd bring it back.
I would,
So we have to wait a month
Bring it
for
back.
getting Jason's support?
I'd consider reposting it myself, but
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, and we can always have a special meeting if it comes without having
Yeah.
to delay for a full month off of that stuff that there is.
But as far as, that was the main one. The administrative assistant, I don't know, there was kind of some mixed reviews about it. The other ones I would be okay reposting it. I don't know what the initial thoughts were. And same with Public Works. I don't think we had a viable second choice. So that would be reposted as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay.
If one needs to, if the clerk is declined, we'll plan on a special council meeting with the second. But if that one's accepted, if either of the other ones are declined, I'm gonna plan on reposting
That's fine.
and moving forward with it at that point, so.
next item is the updated City of Orinoco Personnel Policy Manual. Something that we've been working on, started with the Personnel Committee. And Nico worked on it too, and we've also, the Labor Relations Committee have also been working on it the last couple months, so we think we're ready to bring it to council for approval. So I make a motion to start the discussion to approve the Personnel Policy Manual.
I'll second that. Discussion?
All right, comments, discussion?
Yeah, I do. I was looking at page 21 of the book or page 99, however you want to look at, whichever one those are. I'll let you get to that point. And it's on the on-call 6.02.
6.02,
Mm-hmm.
what page is that on?
It's on page 99 or page 21 of the handbook, depending on which one you're gonna look at. And the on-call phone number is Kane's number. Is there a way if we're on call and Kane's not on call, should he be getting that phone call or should it be done to a separate number that's because we've got the phone system? So
was the public works number.
that's his number.
Yeah, I think we're gonna work that out internally as far as what that number is going to be.
Because otherwise it's like, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so.
We've talked about options as far as using our existing phone system or an on-call, dedicated on-call phone.
Which I think would make more sense for that. And so before you put in the policy, I'd like to have that addressed because I think that's important.
I think that would be good to remove the number and just say utilize an on-call phone. And that'll be laid out whenever we're dealing with employees as to what
Yeah,
that is.
that would be laid out at that time when somebody's hired or something.
Yeah.
One thing I think it maybe should be, is I didn't see it in here about rehiring ex-employees or former employees. I think that should be addressed. I know many places that won't rehire employees that have left for reasons of attitude and stuff like that, so I think it should be in here.
Without trying to delay this, is that something that we can review as the employee relations committee to add in a later meeting?
I'd like to see it added as soon as possible.
Okay.
Wouldn't take much wording for somebody to come up with it.
And that's something that the committee can work with you on and discuss what your ideas are, so that'd be good.
I just think it's something that needs to be in there.
And I think the on-call fees and that are pretty reasonable. You agree, Kate?
Well, it's a starting point.
It's a living document.
Yeah, but I think that you guys have done a good job at least.
It's in black and white.
Use it more.
You gotta start, okay?
It's taken 47 months to get to tonight, so.
And that fits in our budget,
But who's counting?
but that cost fits in the budget. So again, I think as we think about budget for next year, if we want to increase that, then it just needs to make sure that it's following from a budget perspective so that we worked out the math so that will fit within the 2025 budget.
And the only other question I have, and whether it be there or not, I know we've got a difference between state and federal and what goes on, and that 23.04 on page 142. Okay, or page 64 of the personnel. We're looking at affirm gender identity. I think that federally that's already been put into motion, that it's a little bit different. Do we want to leave that in there or do we want to take that out?
What page are you on? Sorry.
Page 142.
2304, yes. Page 1.
Or, 142 or page 64 of the book, and it's under 23.04. I just wonder if it needs to be in there. That was the only question that I have.
Yeah, we can put it in. Fine.
So this document was created to, sorry, Tom. I don't know, do we want?
No.
No.
No, okay, that was not what I thought it was someone else. Anyways, so this document was created by Nico. Redone up by them, and a lot of it was put in there with those standards. Mike might be able to address best if it's in there, but I know this isn't really his area. He was here to help answer some questions if need be.
I can jump in a little bit. So this was based on the League of Minnesota Cities model ordinance. And so, but it was they might have changed the model since we started this because it's been going on so long. So I guess the question would be, I don't know the state of the law, I guess, right now. But the law in that area is changing, obviously, all the time. So I think it's something where you should just adopt it. And then if you're going to look at a couple other issues like the phone number issue and the Paul's issue, you could just adopt it tonight and just flag that and look at that and see if there is, I think what Jim is saying, it's preempted by federal law or possibly preempted. And I don't honestly know. That's something that would have to just be researched and the league, you could contact the league since it's their model and just ask them that question. You know, is there any new law that would change, usurp the Minnesota Human Rights Act? So I don't think you want to violate the Human Rights Act, but I think it's a fair question to review and determine what the state of the law is currently. I think we started this probably a year and a half ago. And, we just used the league model as the basis for it. So I would just ask you to adopt it tonight and then inquire about that. And, between now and the next month when you fix the other issues.
Mike, is there a way they could add a paragraph that says something like that any preemptions by federal or state law, this will revert to that?
Not on the fly, I can't, but I mean, the whole idea of preemption is, the whole idea of preemption is that if you adopt something that's preempted, it's automatically preempted. It doesn't matter if you write in there that it's okay, it's not null and void if preempted. Well, that can be silent. I mean, that's always true with all the laws. If you guys adopt an ordinance about the consumption of, what would be an example, like DWI, if you adopted a local DWI provision, it wouldn't be of any force or effect because the state's already preempted in that issue, for example. So I don't think, you can just delay the whole process, or if you want to push it through and just look at it, this language might be fine. I don't know. I think the question is, you have to follow the law, whatever it is. So, and I don't honestly know the answer. So your options are just to adopt it as is and then repeal it or alter it later, or just weigh down the whole policy. And it's a great question. This is where, just for future reference, if people have questions like this, it's good to ask them ahead of time, because then I can look it up and figure it out before the meeting. Because I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head, but I do think it's a fair question to review, things like that when they come up.
There is a section on 1.3 about just the provisions, and nothing in this policy is intended to modify or supersede any applicable provisions of state or federal law.
Which numbers?
1.3.
It's on page 85.
Is it 1.03 or 1.3?
Their scope, that last paragraph, but yeah, we can look at that. The 23.04. Again, I don't know the last time this was updated, so I think it's like
We were
Rylan and
looking,
Jason said, it's a living, breathing document, but it's.
I think this is the same one we were working with originally. So, that's going back last year of what there was, and they had revised it the year before. So I know it had come up with a couple of different revisions, but no, I think that you guys did a really good job on the rest of it. Really did.
Good. I think Nico did a great job for us, and we appreciate his time.
Yeah, and as an update, Nico took a new job at a different law firm and is no longer with us. So we have other lawyers that can answer your questions if you have. But I think his last day was last Friday. But yeah, just an FYI on that.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to accept the new policy, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Approved. Jason, do you have a monthly report?
Yeah, this is just gonna be a verbal one here. You guys had a little 2 pages in front of you. Just some of the stuff we'll be going through. The very first one is the BSNA software. It's kind of an update on this. This is our open sheet. You'll see front and back here of tasks we're working on. Some of them have been closed because they're done. Some are waiting, depending on who's been assigned to. You see all the ones with Renee's name. They're mine now. We're working on getting through some of those ones. We still have our go live date of June 9th. I just had a meeting with them today to get more information and keep pushing through. So we're about 81 days, 82 days, something like that from our go live from this. So the plan is with the new hires I'm going to try and push for April 14th to have a meeting with our new city staff and BSNA to start getting them on board with the software and start getting them familiar with it, the process, and helping everything get going. So that's that. The second one, this is some recent stuff here. There's 2 pages that you have in front of you. The first page is the receipt part of a check that I received yesterday. And the second page is from Oakwood Meadows. It's a delinquent invoice for their sewer bill. They were provided notice in October, notice in December, and then more recently, I was asked last week by them for an updated notice again. My intent was to talk to you all about this. I think this is stuff that I had sent out as well. With their invoices and how much their bill is at from each month up to where we're at now. They did make a payment. You'll see on the first one here, you'll see a payment for 4 of the months. I kind of wrote out there, it looks like they went through and they paid the original bill on the month and ignored the fees, the late fees on each month. Which if you tally all those together, you'll see a total of almost $12,500 worth of late fees that they haven't paid yet. So that's something I'm gonna address with them and see what they have to say. I haven't had time to reach out to them yet. Like I said, I got this check last night. I do think it's progress. You know, they owe a lot, but it's
You got a check for how much?
$29,037.28.
They haven't said when they're planning on paying, right?
No, and I wasn't expecting this. This check was actually written in February before this invoice and delinquent notice was sent back to them in March. The check was issued on the 28th of February. You'll see at the top the date. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I gotta reach out and talk to them more, but I wanted you guys to be aware of, they did make a payment. Wasn't quite payment in full for each one of those months. They did not put the fees on there. I don't think that we should neglect those fees by any means, because that's a lot of money. If, you know, we expect the same of our residents, then we should expect the same of them. So
Did the check go through?
I still have it. I literally got it last night at the end of the day.
If the check goes
It's
through.
not like water. They don't let this shut up.
Yeah.
Well, you can't shut it off, by law. You can't shut off the sewer.
So
Watch this.
that's just an update on that. And then the last sheet here, this is an updated travel payment request form that I'm implementing and starting to use. I've done it with all council members who have gone away. I kind of, on recent trainings, I went through and filled it in. I'll be sending out the actual document for you guys to have. This is just an example of what it looks like. It's for in-state travel, there's one for out-of-state travel, and there's also one for out-of-country travel. For some reason, we travel out of country. But this will be nice to help us track where we're at, what's going on when we leave. And it just kind of helps give us the breakdown of, the meal rates, the mileage rates, all those things that we talked about. Even way back when we were doing the budget and I was explaining all the meal rates and mile rates. This will put it together, and this will be submitted when you submit any payments for reimbursement. Or even if you don't have reimbursement, say you went away to a conference and stay anywhere it was for a day, you still put this in because you'll have travel and meals, things like that. That'll be reimbursed to you. There's no receipts needed for meals. You're just given your meal rates here based off of the time when you left and when you came home. So with that, you'll kind of see in the right side, it says leave post of duty, which is the city of Orinoco, leaving your residence. If you leave before that time, you get that meal. And then once your trip is done, when you return, on the right side, you'll see return to post of duty. So if you're returning after 1 p.m. but before 8 p.m., you'll get breakfast and lunch for that day, but not dinner. Return after 8 p.m., you'll get all 3 meals. If you return before 1 o'clock, you only get breakfast. So if you have questions about that, I'm more than willing to help walk through and go from there. Otherwise, been super busy, just various meetings. I was working with the fire department a little bit on the gambling stuff. I did get the gambling, we're working on updating the gambling ordinance with Kent, because it is way out of date and focused on bingo. And the way he explained it, as of right now, they're in violation of it. And they would only be allowed like one or two of their games. So it's very restrictive, and it's an old ordinance that's clearly out of date that needs to be updated. So we are working on that. So we had a good meeting with that and we're starting to go. Also finished the fire grant stuff, all the information that was done and submitted that. So that should be moving forward as well. And yeah, I've just been getting my butt kicked by AP, payroll, utility billing. It never seems to end. So I'm excited to get the new help and hopefully stop sinking and we can get caught up on some stuff. So I do apologize for things being late. It's just, I'm a one-person army and I'm usually at 45 hours by Thursday. And I'm burning the candle at both ends, if you will. So it's taking its toll. And like I said, I'm excited to get the help moving forward.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
New business. Got some discussion. Jim, if you want to talk first about your.
Yeah, we had turned around and, last December, instead of having an RFP put out for Stantec, we were gonna get together and he was gonna adjust and go over his fees that he has for Joe Palin. It was gonna be done in a workshop type environment, and so it was just making sure that that just didn't fall through the cracks, that maybe we can turn around, and I know that Joe's gone to be able to do that, but I'd like to come up with the time that we can to go over that, so.
Yeah. He's very receptive to that, so I think it was.
If we want to do it at a workshop, we could almost put it in any time that he might be available if we have the notice to be able to do that.
We could do it before a council meeting if we'll do that.
Yeah, sometime, yeah.
30 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
Plenty for discussion.
Or 30 minutes or an hour at the most, I would think, we should be able to get that done.
We'll just kind of see if before the April council meeting, right, for a 6 p.m. Sound good?
Well, no, 6, I'd go 5:30. I'd go 5:30 to make sure.
Yeah, it gets kind of depending on what's on the agenda. 5:30 is fine.
Yeah,
What day is it?
that'd be for before the next council meeting, do it at 5:30. And then that would give us at least time to take a breather if it goes from that into council after that too.
22nd.
No,
Oh,
April 1st is the
April
first
1st.
Tuesday, so it'll be the.
oh, yep, sorry.
April 22nd. No, 15th is it?
the
Council meeting's April 15th.
We did the 15th.
15th.
22nd, no, it's 15.
15th.
Daniel? You talk about your.
Yep, so mine was also going to be potentially setting up some workshop dates to start looking at the 2026 budget. One of the main talking points at the council training was actually setting up these budgets as early as even, June might even be a little late for it, but to actually start setting goals for the 2026 budget. So we want to meet with each of our departments and each of our committees and see what their goals are as well as our individual goals. So this could be a place where Kane would come back with his dump trailer for sure, to set a goal. So we would be able to help Jason out in getting all these goals in order, and to help him out to set that preliminary budget for when we start the actual dollar talking. So these workshops won't be to discuss how we would fund some of these things. It would just be, this would be ideas. Also, I think we could use these for some of the CIP. We've had a lot of talk lately about creating CIP funds for different various things as far as roads and fire. And I think we can get together, brainstorm and see what kind of dollar amount we want to set away in these CIP funds per year, what we need. But I think it's important to get department heads either or committee members. So I guess the question tonight is, do we want to maybe send a directive to the committees to talk about these and be able to present these goals by committee back to us as liaisons? Do we want to just present those? Or do we want to actually have committee members come in and represent? How do we want to format?
Yeah.
How do we want to format these?
You know, as a comment, and this last year, nothing against Jason because he was new coming in and he was trying to put everything together. But in the prior years, we've actually started in June for our stuff when we did it with Sunny, when we were doing stuff and before that. And so it was just this last year that we got a little bit of a late start on doing it. Okay, so I think that June is, and I agree with what you're talking about. I think that June's the right time to start and to work it where we're not pushed where we've got 3 in a row that we were doing. Again, nothing with Jason. Jason was trying to pick up everything that there was and didn't kind of have everything. So I think that this year will be a little bit different, but I agree with that time element that you're looking at on trying to do that 100%.
So putting bugs in ears on the committees for parks and trails, roads. I mean, I'd like to hear from Jason and on goals for staff and that sort of thing. So we'd start that early, but I think now would be a good time to start putting a bug in the ear of all these committees and departments to start thinking about it, giving them kind of a date.
I think the one thing we should consider is having them think about not just next year, but the 3 and 5 year plan. Because some of these things are expensive. So how do we build up our coffers to get them?
Yep.
So again, I think as we communicate, not just for next year, but what's the 3, maybe it's 1, 3, 5.
Yeah, I think that's great.
You know, and I
Anything
think those
for-
are all great ideas. I really do. I think it's what we need to have.
And that kind of falls in line with what Jason's proposing of goal setting for 1, 3, and 5 years out and big project ideas. So we're kind of
Well, and one thing I would like to see,
overlapping.
one thing I would like to see done, you see how worked up I got over the sanding and the snowplow budget. I would like to see that sanding and snowplow budget added into the streets and roads budget. So when it doesn't get used, it's there for the streets and roads. Because that's
I
what
mean,
we're saying.
those are some good ideas to take a look at.
That money needs to be targeted for the streets and roads since it was in the first place.
I think some of these things can absolutely be discussed in these early workshops. Where we're not necessarily talking dollars.
Right.
We're talking
Common
goals,
sense.
goals, you know.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just
one
a-
thing too, with the fireworks thing was really one that we've kind of talked about over the years, but never had enough to be able to do it. And I mean, those are some good things that there are to be able to
Well,
look at bringing those things back in.
thing it is, when it comes to the fireworks, Gold Rush paid for it most of it each year.
Mhm.
And the show didn't, when the costs kept going up, Gold Rush did keep putting more money in, the show kept getting smaller and smaller. Because fireworks.
But
get
I
more and
think
more
it's something we
expensive.
can talk about with the city, that maybe we want to look at that as parks and trails or whatever else. And being a part of that budget. That
Well,
might be the-
City funds can't go for fireworks, if I recall right. Am I correct, Rylan?
Well, city did sponsor it. We had the contract.
But the city didn't pay for it.
The city paid for a lot of it.
The city,
Yeah, Gold Rush donated to it. Fire department donated to it.
Right,
It was a
but-
city budget
but
item.
it didn't come out of, we didn't budget for it here in city council for fireworks. It came out of fire department money and Gold Rush.
I'm pretty sure it was a budgeted item. But the problem was it was starting to get too expensive and we weren't getting the Gold Rush and we weren't getting fireworks. So it became more and more of a city issue. So that's why we didn't do it anymore.
Well, I I know the discussion when it kind of come to a stop, is it had to do with where did they want the funds to go? Did they want them to go to National Night Out or did they want them to go fireworks?
Well,
They kind of threw that on
generally
Facebook.
dropped considerably, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think if that's our
So-
goal, that we want to provide fireworks for the next 3 years, I mean, then we need to find creative ways of where that money comes from.
I agree. But, yeah, okay, so I guess getting back to the original comment about committees, would you want to put together a memo to go out to the different committees and just suggest a timeline for their April meetings to kind of start thinking, review it again in May?
Do we want to try and set some dates for ourselves next meeting after we get
You could.
back? Or, because tonight's probably too soon to actually put together, you know, and do we want to do these in small chunks and
Yeah.
and like maybe a department and a committee one night and I'm just spitballing. I don't know if I want to sit for 3 or 4 hours.
No, we don't need that.
For 1 or 2 departments, you know, but yeah, so I can put together a
You'll put
memo.
together kind of an overview,
Sure.
share that with the council, and we'll give you some feedback
Yep, absolutely.
and emails and.
But I think you're on the right time frame that there is to talk about this stuff now,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and then this will be the lead right into the CIP stuff is we're working towards that. We need to start working towards future. I mean, even a 10-year wouldn't be bad to start discussing. So. I can make that a living document and then give you everybody access to make edits
Yeah, I
or
think the main thing is just get it out to the committees and start
Yeah.
thinking about it in April and
Yeah.
formalize maybe in May what they'd like to propose or something.
We should maybe have a template of how they're gonna bring it forward, so it's consistent, we're seeing it all kind of the same for all of the groups, I think would be helpful too.
sure I can work on that as well. I'll kind of templatize it, so.
All right, Jason?
Mayor, can I jump in? Do you guys mind if I log off? I think you probably don't need me anymore tonight.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so mine kind of curtails off of both of these, and this is stuff I've gotten from other city administrators and other cities I've seen done, and just kind of, being here a year now, taking these things in. I think there's a lot of things the city council needs to do. And part of that is gonna, involve some workshops and things like that. And some of the ideas for these workshops that I've come up with in these communications I've had and these research I've done, creating a code of ethics for council, code of conduct for council, creating a mission and vision statements, which I think is gonna be really important, especially as we come into the budget talks. Because your mission and vision statements for the city are what help drive the decisions made by council, and help determine what funding should be used for. Because it all falls back to is it under the scope or the purview of a mission or the vision of the city that we see? Should we be spending money on that? Is it related to what we, the way we see the city going? So without those, it kind of becomes this free for all where we don't have that guidance for direction. So that's another important one. Conflict of interest statement. And then goal settings, like we talked about, 1, 3, 5, even 10 years out, for CIP and things like that. And that'll be key working with the other committees. Really to sit down with them and have them start, okay, Parks and Trails especially, they're chomping at the bit for stuff to do, but they don't have a budget. They don't know what they can or can't do. And I know they've talked about wanting to get a line item in the budget for where they have $5,000 where they can just say, hey, we've got money where we want to plant some planter beds somewhere. They can just do that without having to come to council every time. They can really help the city in different ways by having that ability. But until we get that set up with them and get those projects, Kane put together a list of projects for them that are, fairly easy to do. They're not big 5-10 year type projects. But having those things for them to look forward to and work for, just like you do with sewer and water, right? You're you're doing these big projects with the treatment facility and all these other things, having every committee having that ability to do that, I think is gonna be key and kind of give them, make them feel like they're more part of the city, part of the, what's happening, what's going on, and really kind of give them ownership of their town. So my goal with bringing these forward is to talk about, maybe let's set some actual dates and get some dates on the calendar. If we want to keep it consistent, you know, before the next 4 or 5 council meetings, let's do a workshop. I'm fine with that. You know, whatever the case may be, we can set, you know, hour timeframe. I've seen them where they do weekend getaways somewhere or lock-ins for evenings. Like there's a variety of things that you can do. It just depends on what you want to, you know, how much time you want to invest in this and what you want to do. Well, leave it up to your hands.
Your place in Brookings.
I was thinking Hawaii.
Hey. You do.
Is that out of state?
Yeah, you
Out of
do have-
state, out of state.
Out of state
Out
travel.
of state. Maybe it's like use it.
So I think I like the ideas, and I think these are all great ideas, and I think that even, you know, look at our, if we look at the calendar, if we could kind of, because, kind of work hard, the June 17th date, really kind of work in all of these workshops. Might be for us, an end date for a lot of these with Joe and with goal setting and with your input. You know, we can do it in April, we can do it in May, or we'll do another meeting too before that.
Well, like I said, I see a lot of cities that do workshops before their meetings, for a variety of reasons. These are just some ideas for what we could do. A lot of times the workshops before council meetings are done to bring up discussion points and have discussion to help make the council meetings go faster. So there's not a lot of discussion. But like I said, they also do them for other things such as what's listed here. So I think like I said, if that's something that interests council, having actual workshops before the meetings, that's great. If they want to do a whole separate day, that's fine too. I'm just leaving it up to you guys, but I think we really should get something set. So that way we can be held accountable and start doing it versus, oh yeah, that's great. And then nothing happens for a year. So.
Very good.
So as a starting, if we did the April and May meeting an hour before, and then decide what we're going to discuss. At those two for sure, and if we want a third one.
We've already got the April one with Joe.
What's that?
We're gonna do the April one with
As
Joe.
you said,
Right,
that's the
right.
April one.
So, yeah, but I
So
think
whatever we
it's
want to
great.
decide about May.
We'll figure out what we're gonna do for that, so I think it's good.
As we get into summer, I'll have to kind of pivot off of Thursday, like I won't be able to add additional time on Thursdays with sports and stuff, but if we need to go through summer months and do shorter workshops on alternate days. Like Mondays or
We're
Wednesdays
usually
would
pretty
be-
flexible on trying to do that stuff. I think it's great ideas.
So we want to do a May one before the council meeting at 5:30?
April for sure.
Yeah, April's, that's
Let me
Joe.
get, yeah, let me get the document out to the committees and then you can send that out to
Let's
the
discuss the May
departments.
one in April.
But they- There's gonna be some that are gonna be pretty
We'll
quick.
discuss the
Let's
May,
discuss the
May and
yeah,
April,
the May one in
Yeah,
April.
that's fine.
so we know what's coming up that we're gonna.
So,
Well, and like I said, I mean, the workshop could be for budget, it could be for one of my topics, like I said, it could be for anything.
sure.
I really do, I'll be honest, I really think it's important to get a vision and mission statement done, especially before we come into budget, so we have that guidance. So I would encourage that maybe to be the May one, just so we can really, you know, you guys, say we as a city, but you as council can nail that down and have that as we come into the budgets, help kind of guide you all with that.
Is that something that'll go hand in hand with the rebranding, the EDA rebranding stuff? The mission and vision statements, will that come along with the EDA
They're-
rebranding or?
Two different things that are on there.
Their rebranding
Mission
could
for
be a little
EDA,
bit built
yeah.
off of our mission
Off
and
of it,
vision
okay,
statement. But I'll check into that with Rebecca and see if that's something that, you know, as we, because we're coming into that too, they're gonna be discussing that here at the end of the month, their meeting. You know, if that's something that they would help with, then I think that would be a benefit to have that definitely in May to have them work with that to help create that. I think that'd be super nice. So,
I think we should make sure that the committees also have a mission and vision. Cause I don't know if I've seen them all. So if we're gonna send out about budget, like having them start to think about what their individual mission and vision is and how that levels up to the cities, I think would be important too.
Okay, I agree. Good discussion. We'll go with this, before we get to the consent agenda, we got a couple items that Jim wanted to discuss from the consent agenda that we pulled out. And what was the first one, Jim?
The first one I was looking at is 34116, and it's on page 193. Okay, and it's under revenues, and that's what kind of threw me off a little bit, not under expenses that go along with it. So we had a revenue, so we had something that came in with $1,878. Okay, and so I was trying to figure this stuff out, and so when I'm looking at it, and you look at the total on the next page. Okay, when you look at revenues just by itself, the original budget is for $1,885,097. But you have a negative that there is where the unused balance you have down there is $1,857,104. If you've got additions, shouldn't that be added instead of subtracted of the 27,000 that you've got there? So you've got year-to-date actual of the 27,000, but you subtracted that where it should be added to, so it should be 1,941,083 if it's a revenue.
You said a minus over here though.
Yeah, but it should be a revenue. Okay, if it's a revenue, it's a plus, not a minus.
Right, over here, there's a minus.
I know, that's what I'm trying to say. I was just looking at the chart.
1778.
Yeah,
But
but
that may be something with the software. I don't know. I would have to.
you know what I'm trying to
I
say?
understand what you're trying to
It's just
say.
like, I'm going, wait a minute here. This
Yeah,
is
no.
revenue should go up,
I
it shouldn't
understand
go
what you're
down.
trying to say. I don't know exactly. That's something I'd have to call Tyler Tech and I.
Yeah,
think
check
that's something-
on that. I mean, that was just something that popped up that I wanted to draw your attention to off of that I saw that. And the other one that I had, which I think we've already kind of came into discussion of it, which was, what was that number that I was, which is, the 45501, which is on page 198. And it's 45501 and 45502. And on those, that's where I wanted to make the adjustment for what we were doing for doing the cleaning for the street sweeper.
You mean 45001.
Oh yeah, sorry, 45001 and 45002. And we looked at that and making that change that there was to have the sanding for what we're doing, having that go under that line item. But I just wanted, when we were doing that, to draw that attention to what there was.
For the streets, we do that for the next year's 2026.
No, this is for the street sweeping, but when we were doing it, I couldn't go into that first when we were trying to do it. So I think we've already resolved that's a better way to take the money away off of that is under that, 45002 sanding.
So, and Jim, I'm gonna take a stab at this revenue thing here. I'll check again to verify, but so if you're looking at it, the amended or original balance, right, is 1.8 million and some change. And of that budgeted revenue, we've used 27,900 of it, right? So that's why you're seeing a lesser number of the 1.857, because it's taking it off of what the original budget is to let you know, like, okay, yep, you've used this portion of that revenue, expected revenue. Like so that's why it's there. It's
Right.
so it kind of makes sense because at the end of it, the unused balance, if we used all our revenue, that would say 0, and our budget on the expenditure side would say 0.
Right,
So
but he's subtracting this from this to come up with this
Yeah.
1857.
Right, I know what he was doing,
So
okay,
it's
I
not-
was just
it's not
trying to.
gonna- It's not gonna add, it's saying that this year to date, we've used or we've accrued 27,000 of our 1.8 million. So our accrual left for our revenues is the unused. That's the amount we haven't accrued. So that would be the 1.85 that we still have yet to accrue, that we need to accrue to get to that budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I was just looking though, but I mean, we hit that number, which was pretty substantial already off that. I mean, and we'll do that for budgeting and watching that, so, yeah, I'm with you. Cause that was on the finance charge that we had $1,878.
What was the other thing you want to talk about? Something else in there?
No, the rest was the sanding, which is,
Okay.
we already did that, and we looked at how we were gonna budget that. Street sweeping, so that took care of that.
Okay, those were the ones you wanted to discuss?
Yeah.
Okay, so I make a motion, we approve the agenda, consent agenda.
I second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Did they call today?
Jim and Joe, Paul?
Right.
Jim and.
Jim and Daniel.
Daniel, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed at 8:55.